magic makers, and welcome back to the Metaphysical Apothecary. We are your hosts, Shannon and Megan.
Hi, everyone.
Also known as the Scorpio Sisters, here to explore the mysterious, the magical, and the arcane.
There's also a handful of fallen angels that get a really bad rap.
Oh, yes.
In terms of being called demonic and being accused of having evil intentions. As a group, they're called the Watchers or the Grigori, and they're often accused of running around Earth and causing mischief. Whereas if you look at the actual individuals who make up this group, it's much more likely that they're here to guide humanity, which is what they seem to want to do anyway. The two angels in particular that I want to talk about who have fallen from grace and are considered demonic are Samael and Azazel. Azazel, his name literally means scapegoat. He's heavily associated with a Jewish ritual that was performed to cast out the sin of a community in the being of a goat. This is an extremely simplified version of this ritual. It's very complex and it's sacred to ancient Jewish tradition, but that's kind of where the name comes from. The first time we encounter Azazel as a fallen angel is in the book of Enoch. He's said to be one of the demons who are on Mount Hermon, which is supposed to be a gathering place for the demons of old. And he's one of the leaders of the rebellious Watchers or Grigori who walked among men in antediluvian times. His job was to teach people the art of making swords, knives, shields, mail, and to teach them how to use cosmetics by dyeing their hair, painting their eyebrows, painting their faces with different colors and cosmetics, and also taught people witchcraft. So if we think about this critically, Azazel is teaching humans how to smelt and work metal. He's teaching them how to use the resources around them to paint their bodies, possibly for ritual purposes if he's also teaching them witchcraft. Essentially, he's teaching them things that they're going to need to know. He's teaching them to make tools. He's teaching them how to decorate their bodies and possibly also how to decorate their bodies with ritual markings or in ways that will help them to raise energy or draw energy up when they're practicing witchcraft rituals.
Mm-hmm.
That's my extrapolation, but it doesn't feel like it's too much of an exaggeration if you think about it critically. Then we have Samael, whose name literally means the venom of God. He was another one of the Watchers or Grigori. He was actually supposed to be the one who planted the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which in modern times, scholars of mythology suspect may have been representative of being able to think critically, being able to reason, being able to think independently, those sorts of things. So he provided human beings with that knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, Samael, being the venom of God, isn't necessarily a bad thing for us. When studying his actions, it seems as though when he unleashes his venom, it's at people who are doing bad things. So he's imparting justice on people who are doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Is that unpleasant for those people? Yes. Does that mean he's going to smite us just because we exist? Probably not. There's also a lesser-known fallen angel named Nama. She is usually depicted as having a female body, and she's often conflated with Lilith. So Lilith being the first woman who was created in Eden, but Nama is often placed in the garden with her either as a friend or a lover sometimes. Her name also means serpent lady, and indeed, Nama is sometimes portrayed as the serpent in the garden who tempts Eve to eat of the fruit of the tree.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at the symbolism of the serpent, serpents are symbols of the goddess and goddess worship and wisdom and knowledge as well.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to transformation. You've got all these symbols kind of coming together that it's easy to see once you understand what they originally meant, how they were glossed over and sort of repackaged into something that was unsavory or evil.
Mm-hmm. Also with Nama, she's following a pattern of guardianship to very important trees. One of those patterns includes the guardian of the tree or trees of the golden apples in Greek mythos, and the guardian who watches over them is called Ladin. He's a serpentine draconian guardian that wraps around a tree or a grove of trees, protecting not only the trees themselves, but the dryads in charge of tending those trees.
So Nama likes to guard sacred trees and probably is closely associated with goddess worship.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of serpents, a deeply maligned being that still gives me a chill down my spine. I did a lot of research into this being, and just the sheer size and breadth of both the legend and the being itself still kind of, give you that apprehensive feeling in your chest. That being is Leviathan. And there's so much information out there about Leviathan. If you're interested in demonic lore, this is a good place to take a deep dive. This being is a sea serpent or dragon that is present in Jewish, Christian, and Gnostic traditions. In most traditions and legends, Leviathan encircles the world and is associated with a couple of other serpent beings from Near Eastern mythology, including the goddess Tiamat. The Jewish Kabbalistic tradition frames the Leviathan as a metaphor for enlightenment. Imagery of slaying and eating pieces of Leviathan to attain its wisdom is very common. People who are higher up on the scale of being enlightened receive a larger portion of Leviathan's body to consume, and people lower down get a smaller portion. So in Gnosticism, Leviathan's actually a mechanism of reincarnation, consuming souls that haven't reached enlightenment and then will return them to the earth in quote-unquote animal bodies. Since humans are also animals, it could be human, it could be fox. Basically, Leviathan is kind of a slip and slide for souls to reincarnate. That's the picture that came to my mind when I was reading about that. The interesting thing about Leviathan, in addition to its possible ties to goddess worship, because again, serpent dragon is associated with keeping the world intact. That same Gnostic tradition states that Leviathan is responsible for radiating evil into the world. This leads to a conversation about what evil actually is, and is Leviathan actually radiating evil, or is it just the knowledge that suffering and fear exist and allowing us to exercise our will around that as we like?
With this perception of Leviathan, it does change the story a little bit of Job.
Why do you say that?
In the story of Job, Job is a devout worshiper of God, of Yahweh, and he's rewarded for it without question until Satan, Lucifer, the counterpart of God, challenges the perception that the only reason why he is so devout and so faithful is because he's had everything handed to him. He has only ever had good luck. So if you take away that good luck and that good fortune, will he still be a devout, faithful worshiper? And part of his trials is losing everything he's ever held dear, everything he's ever valued, all of his possessions, and ends up in the belly of Leviathan.
You're right. That makes that story take on a much different ending. Because Leviathan presumably allows Job to reincarnate and kind of spits him back out into the world to live a new life.
And my now new perception of this story is he's living a new life with the past life memories of his previous faithful, super lucky, super fortunate life that he may not be experiencing in this one. Are you going to be bitter, or are you going to be not bitter and continue to learn and continue to plod down the path of learning how to manifest your potential despite your surroundings within that life? This is really interesting to rework with the known stories with these deities, with these energies, with these daemons and demons, and start looking at their stories.
The idea here is to look into the origin stories as deeply as we can, because some information has been lost, but to look into these origin stories as deeply as we can and start to understand the nature of the beings that we may be afraid of. Because oftentimes we'll discover that we don't necessarily need to be afraid of them. We still need to respect them. They don't need or deserve our fear. However, actual malign entities do need our fear to exist.
Yes. In fact, that's what they feed on.
Exactly. So that's all we have on our topic for today. Thank you so much for listening in, and we hope you'll join us again soon. In the meantime, you can follow us for more witchy wisdom, both here and on our blog, and you can also check out our original art on Society 6 for sacred decor and more. Thanks again for joining us. Go make some magic and live your best life.
Bye!